Hello and welcome to Unit 2 of our course. In this instructional video, I'm going to be talking about Chapter 2, which is right here. This is again my ebook. You might have an ebook, you might have a regular book, but either way the page numbers are the same. And in Chapter 2, it's about working inside desktop computers and laptops. And there are special considerations. The first thing is make sure you know what you're doing before you go into either one of these types of machines. And if you don't feel confident, stop and ask questions. Or don't do it, because getting in trouble with one of these things can be dangerous, or it can be expensive, or both. So let's take a look at the chapter. Here it starts with the various steps of how to work inside a desktop computer case. Number 1 is plan and organize your work. Right, how do we proceed? Where am I going to start? Why am I doing this? Open the computer case and examine the system. This is, of course, after the machine has been unplugged thoroughly and it has had 2 to 3 minutes to discharge. You need to make sure that all the electrical current is out of the system. And again, it's showing here that pressing the power button after the computer is unplugged will the power button, will help to discharge the electricity out of the capacitors. So something to be wary and have a note of. In this page, it's talking about the back side of a computer case. This is a mini tower, probably ATX form factor. Here's the I/O panel. Here's the power supply. Here's the rear case fan. Something I want to note here is that these 3 slot spaces for cards are empty. And that's fine if they're empty, but these actually don't have metal space fillers in them. It's a little L-shaped piece that goes in there. It's just a filler, and it's important to have those in there if you're not using a card in that space. Why? Because you want to have correct airflow throughout the case. Having these open or having the side panel open actually does not help with airflow or cooling off the machine itself. It actually inhibits it. It makes the problem worse. So make sure you have these spaces filled if you're not using it with the little L-shaped brackets, space fillers. In this part, in this picture, the technician is wearing anti-static gloves, which is fine. You may choose to use an ESD bracelet. That's okay too. And again, we see that there's no power cord here, so that's good. Every case is like a puzzle, and you have to figure out how to undo it. Sometimes there are sequences of pieces that need to come off before it opens up or before it disassembles. Here's the front bezel. Got to be careful with these. A lot of them are made out of plastic and little pieces can snap. Be careful to not push too hard with the screwdriver because you don't want to hurt yourself. And you can use little like Dixie cups or something to hold the screws so you can remain organized. Working clean on your work table is important. Again, they're showing here that this person is grounding to the case, that is not a proper ground. Because what will happen is if static comes off of something and goes into this person, where is it going to go? It's going to go right through that bracelet, right through the cord, and right back into the case. So it's just looping. That's not ground. Ground is a proper ground through the through like a household socket or something in some type of an outlet. Make sure you have an electrical tester. Here on page 51, there's another hands-on project. Open a computer case. If you have this available to you, go ahead and do that. Don't destroy anything. Be careful about what you do. Email me if you have any questions. If you need help. If you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Don't push too hard with these. Do not use screwdrivers with magnetic tips, because magnets will destroy things like RAM and various chips. These are called standoffs. Standoffs are soldered onto the motherboard, and they receive electrical connectors. Here is how to insert a card. This looks like it could be a video card. I think I see a DVI connector there. The thing to remember about all cards like this, RAM, anything, is press equally on both sides of the card at the same time. It should go in flat and parallel. You don't want it to rock in unevenly. A lot of these connectors that go to the case, like the speaker, the power button, the reset button, whatever, it depends on the case, right? They will have labels on them. Sometimes it's tiny, so might be hard to read. Here again, the user is using ESD protective gloves. Here's a CPU cooling fan. This looks like it could be RAM. I can't tell. That's a passive heatsink. That looks like SATA cables. Here are some expansion slots here. And again, you can see where these slots here do not have these fillers. There's a filler piece right there. Taking out a motherboard. Before you take out a motherboard, ask yourself why you're doing it. Okay, don't just do it to do it. So the old saying goes, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Okay, so removing a power supply. There's usually a couple screws in the back. Again, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If you don't have to take it out, don't. If you do, make sure everything is clear, everything is unplugged, including all these tails or leads. Hard drives and CD, DVD drives, they have all different types of ways of securing these into the chassis, so every one is going to be different for every manufacturer. No matter what the type of drive, it should go in with little effort, very little resistance, and it should go in, again, equally. You don't want to rock it in or put it in unevenly. Here's a drive cage. Again, do not use magnetic tip screwdrivers at all. Here's how to put the computer back together. Be careful when you're putting these things back in. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on it to get it in and to seat properly. Be really careful when you're working with screwdrivers and various tools around the motherboard, because as you can see here, there are very small components that are soldered onto the board, and you want to make sure that you do not disturb those, because if one thing chips or breaks or goes wrong, the whole motherboard could be trashed. So here's the P1 connector. These are keyed. In other words, there's only one way to put it into this socket. So, and again, that has the P1 connector has that special clip on the side, which makes it very difficult to remove intentionally. Here's an auxiliary 4 pin power connector, and that's for Pentium 4s and beyond. Here's another type of, looks like, what is that, 8-pin connector. And then bring more of the board back together. Here's all the various connectors for the case, like the speaker, the power button. There will be labels on the board. This is called silk screening, and that's exactly what it is. It's silk screened ink that's laid onto the board during the motherboard manufacturing process. As a side note, there should be somewhere on the motherboard either a silk screen part number of the motherboard itself or a label with a part number of the motherboard itself in case you need to look up the part manual. Here is various types of power connection description for pins. Or here are different connectors and what they connect to and how it looks on the outside of the case. Here's a hands-on project again, 2-3, closing the case. You can write about this. Here we talk about supporting laptops. These labels get very small, so you may need to have some magnification in your toolkit. Service manuals, like I say, a lot of times you can just do a search on the internet using Google or something, and you can find a manual online if you don't have the hard copy. And then there are diagnostic tools provided by manufacturers. So consult the manufacturer website if you're looking for something like that. Here's a hands-on project 2-4 about researching laptop service manuals. How to work inside a laptop computer very carefully because things are very tiny. Again, ESD, very small screwdrivers. Keep your parts organized, and before you go in, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And again, this is not ground. That is not a proper ground. You're just looping back to the device itself. Keep things organized. If you have a camera or a cell phone on your camera, take pictures or a video before you get started. Again, ask yourself, why am I doing this? And sometimes servicing a laptop is more expensive than just replacing it. So, in summary, here is the chapter summary on page 75. How to work inside a desktop computer case, special considerations when supporting laptops, how to work inside a laptop computer, and then key terms, reviewing the basics, thinking critically, and then some real problems, real solutions. You could write about this if you'd like. And then that's the end of the chapter.